So I want to introduce John Krysko to you. And he's an ordained interfaith minister. He was ordained by Paul in 1981. He also then went on to receive a master's in divinity and a doctorate in divinity from All Faith Seminary International in New York City. And this organization was founded by Rabbi Joseph Gelberman, and Rabbi Gelberman was involved at times with speaking with the fellowship and had a relationship here as well. And he was an early pioneer in interfaith work, and John's interest in interfaith work led him to form his own church, All Faith's Grace Church in Westchester, New York. He served on numerous interfaith and nonprofit boards, including an ongoing 14-year participation with the Interfaith Center of New York, which is an offshoot of work that had been begun by the Cathedral of St. John the Divine. John's particular focus is on faith realization and the balancing of maintaining a physical presence in the world with a spiritual orientation. He continues to work as a financial advisor and business advisor, as well as a spiritual counselor and teacher. Let's give a warm fellowship welcome to John.
There was a woman, a very good woman, a woman who worked hard all her life. She worked in the offices cleaning up after the men and women in that office. And she saved the money after she put the children through school, and she saved her money so that someday she could take her own journey, her own trip. And she saved up a long time for that journey and put all that she had into that. And she knew she couldn't afford the top cabin, but neither did she want to be so far below deck that she couldn't enjoy it. And she gave her all. And she went out about all the activities except the mealtime. And the captain began to notice that and inquired, was she ill from the stewards? And no, in fact, there was no illness that they reported. She was active at before and after the activities. He couldn't figure it out. But finally, on the day before the very ending of this, that wonderful gala event at the captain's table, he couldn't restrain himself, and he went over to this wonderful woman and said, "Please, sit at my right hand and sit with me." And she demurred and shuffled her feet, thanked him, and then she didn't show up. And then the next morning, the captain went to her and said, "We were so sorry that you couldn't join. Was there anything wrong with the food? Was there anything that I did? I couldn't imagine." He said, "No." And she revealed what happened. She said, "I put everything I had into the trip, and I knew I couldn't afford the food. And I had tins of tuna and peanut butter and saltine crackers. Didn't want to take anything away. I didn't want to go to the kitchen to steal anything. And that was what was in my bag, was the food that I had." And he just said, this was all included, and he could have been at the table sitting next to me. Every time, I haven't told the story terribly often. I heard the story many, many years ago, and it became more personal to me. Because I realized that in the journey that we are all on, we're called to the captain's table. There's not a one of us that is not called to the captain's table. But all too often, we, for whatever reasons, don't feel ourselves worthy to sit in that place. She did all the right things, but didn't love herself quite enough, or didn't understand that. But I understand that feeling. So I'm going to ask a question here before we go on. I'm going to do a number of exercises of balancing masculine and female, and going to the caves, etc. But who here is ready? I'd really like to find out. And just before you answer, think about it. Are you ready to sit at the captain's table with the captain? Okay. Got one hand back there? Okay. Okay. Do I hear it? Okay. Who is ready to be at the captain's table? I mean, that's like, no, great, that's it. It starts with a hand and then it's made more powerful. Oh, wait, a hand.
My partner is the captain.
Your partner is the captain. Okay. Hold that thought. Hold that thought. The partner is the captain. Really, that is a theme. Great. That's spoiler alert, as they say. Thank you for sharing. But feel that energy when you had other people say yes. Isn't that amazing? That is, dare I use the word, fellowship. In its true and original meaning, which is that which I have is part of a whole. It was a contract, actually. It was an actual contract in a spiritual way. That the resources, because you're in that Northern European thing going on there, it's really rough. So it was a literal contract, and so my cow was part of the collective, as was your grain and whatever fish, and that was a very powerful thing. It was survival. But they always knew that their individual needs were going to be met, even as they shared all that they had. Now, I totally grant that it has come to mean something else, and it's a shame. Not this place, but in particular. That the original meaning is alive and well. I see it in the hearts and the minds of everyone that I've listened to here, and it continues. So, great. The journey. So we're on that boat. It's a great metaphor for me about life. And so we're on this journey. We're on the boat, and well, who paid for it? Okay, quick question. Back to that show of hands and/or rousing response. Who here feels that they paid for the trip all by themselves? You did. Good for you. I could not afford the fare of this particular journey that I'm on. It's too dear. I've given everything I can at times to that, but it is certainly beyond me to pay for my place at the captain's table, to pay for that. But this place has been vouchsafed by that one that went before all of us to ensure that that's it. So the journey, but we're all on an individual journey. And when I thought, when I proceeded with getting a doctorate, what was the vehicle ship that? Oh, by the way, I have to use the words fellowship. Thank you. I forgot about that. It's the fellowship. I'm going to remember that. That's going to give me a different context of this. Is that in this journey, we're all on some kind of a journey. Now, the three kinds of journeys, really, and it's going to get to the three caves that we're going to get to at the end. I did not know about the Cathars in that way, but there are going to be three caves, and you can have a choice at the very last meditation.
Behind cave number one.
Cave number one, right. Cave number one, it has to do with the ordinary life, because that's, there is the ordinary life. In fact, let's do this on a piece of paper. Put down 1 + 1 = 2. Okay. Underneath that, put 1 + 1 = 1. And underneath that, I challenge you to write 1 + 1 = infinity. Infinity, the old, sideways 8. Sideways 8 sort of does have a kind of a companionship. The Celts did that with the binding marriage things. We'll get to that. But so the 1 + 1 = 2 is the ordinary life. Anybody that doesn't experience that, how do you drive a car, work your computer, our life is filled with that. It's not to be ignored or made bad. We need to have that. But if that's all that there is in our life, then we're on a journey, we like it or not, but the experiences we're going to have are going to be reflecting of all these other things that we're not even aware of, and it's going to be painful, and we're going to try to get through it. But yet, we do need to keep, as long as we need to keep it, that kind of sense of the ordinary. I would say, not knowing all of you, but I'd say there's the highest likelihood that people here are in the 1 + 1 = 1 category, because that's what we're here to take that which seems to be apart. It seems to be so. Everything tells me that it is, but we know in our hearts that's where the cave is. It's always been here. But in the 1 + 1 being different, we need something else to get us to that oneness. And that's the exploration that churches and others have tried, and religious organizations, because it comes from that sense of oneness, and we're trying to return to that sense of oneness. The 1 plus 1, and that's the enlightened, the 1 plus 1 equals infinity is where we become so unified, we become the one. It's like if you take a square and you cut the sides, you get 8 sides, then 16 sides, and 32, blah, 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 blah. Leibniz, Newton, et al. Have shown us that if we take that process mathematically to infinity, that square then becomes a circle. That circle and a square. The problem about that is when you're in process, there's always more to process, more emotions. It looks like a circle, but you know in your heart, I'm not quite the circle yet. There's a little stuff there. So we get engaged in the process. I'm here to share the thought, challenge thought. Enter into the circle. Because the only way you pursue the search for the, to cut off the edges is some portion of us must know that we are the circle. You can't possibly strive for that which you not already are already in your being. It's not possible. You can't create gods out of nothingness. So we are made in that image and likeness of God. It is said so in one of the few books I carry with me, the Bible. And the thing about the Bible is it is to me an owner's manual thing, really understood properly. And that the problem about understanding the Bible is not understanding it from the very beginning. And in the beginning, there are 2 creation stories, right? If you've read the Bible, there's creation 1, and well, lo and behold, man, in the generic sense, is made, but man and woman are created at the same time, and they're made in the image and likeness of God, right? And then it's all physical. Then 15 seconds later, you have Genesis 2, and then man's alone. And that's kind of confusing. And then the infamous taking it from Adam's rib, the woman's created because he's alone. And he's alone in this journey. So then the journey comes and she's created, the apple is up there. By the way, I invite everyone or anyone or no one to take a bite of the apple. Last I looked, I don't slither on the ground. I would wait to go through the process before you do that. Otherwise, the outcome is not so good. You don't want to do that. But the idea is really to understand that journey, what that second Genesis is. It's critical. Because everything after that does become that masculine interpretation. I would definitely say that that's been misinterpreted from the beginning, about the beginning. And the misunderstanding is that once you leave Eden, and boy, a lot of leadership. Okay, I would gird my loins. It's the chick's fault. She made me do it. I mean, serpent made. Of course, she gets the serpent made. Everybody's in a blame thing. But what is the truth? Once you start there, if you accept that, even for an instant, if I could take one thing out of my consciousness and yours, if I had that power, that would be what I would do. Because it's like the main joke. How do you get there? There ain't no way to get there from here. There's almost no way to get there without dropping that illusion. You see, when God created it, it wasn't to create pain and suffering. It was to allow this consciousness through man, woman, to explore and then come back to an even greater understanding. God wants us on that journey. It's not like we disobeyed. Strike that if you can. I can't tell you to strike it, but consider striking that from your consciousness. That this whole incarnational thing is not bad. But it's the only way we can actually come to know God. And you have to take a bite of that first apple to do that. And we do it. Everybody that's ever been born does that. It's not bad. So, it is suffering, it's a problem, but it is not without hope, because in the book, in Revelation, you're invited back to the captain's table, right? In chapter 20, I think. There's a talk about you're invited to the marriage of the bride and the lamb. We're all invited to that place at the end of that. I'm just suggesting we don't have to wait and go through all of that. We've done that enough. So there's not an easy way, but there is perhaps a more loving way, a more divine feminine way in that way, a more loving way, in a unified way. So, how do you do that? The whole purpose of my dissertation for my own life was about faith. My mother was a woman of deep Irish Catholic Virgo, which is lots of thingness about that. So I came, it's in my DNA, and the faith was so strong in her. But I understood that faith could also be belief systems. And I said, it's something about that didn't resonate, yet it was a source of frustration. So the concept came to me of metafaith. And how that relates to the metahuman is, metafaith is the divine support system that was there from the beginning, that supports each and every one of us on our journey at every step of the way, and then helps us in the journey back home. It's not a belief system. Sorry, Plato. Sorry, I don't care. Whatever their degree of understanding, they didn't understand that if you think that's what faith is. When faith comes to that, it's like ISIS becomes a military thing, or fellowship is something that guys get to get paid more for what women are equally doing. But the word faith and the concept to me is part of the texture from the beginning. When the word was sent out in the universe, God created that, had to have a support system to be able to support us during each and every one of those steps on the way, and then to allow us to come back home. And the thing about that is, I heard the word companionship in the prior talk, is the divine companion. No one here is meant to do that alone. Not even Jesus. No one does it alone. It takes fellowship. But it also takes finding that special connection with something else. I was looking for inspiration. I don't want to get to the exercise. But I was looking for inspiration about that divine companionship, etc. And I found it, in the room that is named after me, or I'm named after John. One might say that I came, I explored many possible things, but I came to this by a process of elimination. One might say. Inside this place, you never know where the pearls are around you. I mean, I see, 25 pearls, whatever here. But this pearl is wondrous, and it's in the bathroom for men and women to see. And it is this wonderful picture, and take a look at it next time I'm in the bathroom, is this slightly older, sorry. Higher. Okay. So in this picture, you have a slightly older sister, with a younger, it doesn't say sister on it, but an older little girl with a younger male child, and there's a guardian angel behind her, and there's this really rickety bridge and all the other things deep in the background that look like the problems of the world. That there's always the angel looking over, and there's also that wonderful, could it be anything else than a woman, a young girl that is actually watching all of that? I mean, it's symbolic, deeply, but that is, and just assuring us. So we have always found in our lives, and I'm going to do an exercise right now about finding that divine companion, because how many people here have ever had a deep challenge in their life that they did not think that they were going to be able to meet? That it looked overwhelming, you call it dark night of the soul, or just indebtedness, okay? Okay, there are at least X amount of honest people here. I know that I have. I don't speak personally. So I'm going to invite you to explore, as the first exercise, what it was that got you through the night, through that darkness. So close your eyes for a moment. And take a couple of deep breaths. And do one breath to release any conscious thoughts that will block the guidance that you need. And breathe it out. Breathe in the light. And take a second breath about any unconscious thoughts that might be blocking that wisdom. And finally, take a third breath, a balanced breath of male and female, intuitive and mental. And just breathe in a balanced breath to be in that state of consciousness, to be receptive. Now imagine, each of you, that one experience. See what comes to mind, that one thing. I don't know how I'm going to get through this thing. Imagine what it was. Try to remember where you were, the colors, the scents in the air, that pit in the stomach. Remember the fear, the uncertainty. Feel the feelings. And it's easy in this group. But feel those feelings of what that was like. Now, because you're at the other end of that tunnel and back into the light, something came into your life. It could be a person, could have been an idea, a check from the mail, it could have been whatever it may be, came into your life to change that situation. And when it did, there was a physical manifestation of it. And invite that into this imagery that you're having, but ask, what do you represent? What quality of divinity was that behind the appearance? Take your time, but when you find that quality, imagine that quality symbolically, metaphorically, coming into your heart center, and feel what that feeling is in your heart, and see how you actually feel in your body. And take a moment. And at the end of when that experience is in your heart and you feel the love of that, just give thanks. Thanks to the universe, thanks to God, thanks to whatever it was that brought that agency that brought it to you. That was an angel. In whatever form it took, it was an angel, I can tell you that. Back, and we don't have much time for sharing in the limited time we have. And I'd like to have one person to share, if they'd like, briefly their experience. For just a 2-minute time. Okay, Jim.
Why don't you come up?
One morning when I was in prayer at 7 o'clock, this was just early January. I took a look at my life, and I was feeling like I was just wasting it because I was watching so many movies with my friend and TV on all day long. And so at 7 o'clock in the morning, I said, God, please help me with this addiction that I have for having things going on, distraction or whatever it is I'm doing. And about 2 hours later, that was when I got an email and I said, I want you to help me do more with my music. I want to donate a lot of this time to doing music. And that was when I got an email from Dr. Nancy Klein of the Old Dominion University choir, and she needed a first soprano because they were going to be singing in Carnegie Hall in 6 weeks. So these kids that were there had been doing it all, you know, for the first semester, and here I'm coming in at the second semester. And I that very first day, I was so scared. I thought, well, I've told everybody that I'm going to do it, and I did that on purpose to make sure that I wouldn't quit, that I wouldn't give up, and because then I would embarrass myself, which I do all the time anyway. What happened was, every single day for the first 3 weeks, I just was ready to quit. And then I kept saying, wait a minute, you promised yourself you would not give up, because if you give up, then you would never know if you were able to do it. So I said, I'm going to give it all I've got. I'm going to come to every rehearsal, which I did. And by the third week, I had already memorized 6 of the songs that wasn't going to even be the part that I was going to do, but she was doing them with the smaller group. And I heard them, and all of a sudden I'm recording all these songs, and now I can sing with them. And then the part that I was really afraid of was, it was a half-an-inch thick of sheet music, and it was all in Latin. And I don't know Latin. I had maybe 6 weeks of it in high school. Okay, and now, okay. Okay, I'm in it now. So anyway, what happened was, I was able to do it. I didn't give up. And I sang in Carnegie Hall, and my 2 kids joined me there to support me, and it was just one of the most wonderful experiences of my life. And that's the first time in years that I had felt so discouraged that I had to kind of beg and plead with God to help me. Thank you.
Wait, so that was, what was the quality? Were you able to discern the kind of quality and bring it into your heart center? When you explained the situation, just briefly, what quality was it that you took into your heart?
Well, for one, I thought about my ego. Didn't want to be embarrassed. I didn't want to disappoint my children. I think that was the main thing. I didn't want to disappoint my children because they were so proud of me. And I thought, I've got to give them something to be proud about. And so what I took into my heart was love for my family, and how proud they would be of me if I actually did it, and I did it.
Thank you. The reason that I went back and asked the quality, the importance of the quality, is very easy to just remember the experience. It's often very, very personal and meaningful, but the universe is trying to teach us something, share something, and we can get to whatever quality that was and identify that. We could start to recognize that outside, not just the person, because it's not going to come in the door the same way. It'll look a different form. But if you could identify that quality and you realize how important it is this is your own personal journey, this is your own personal symbology. When you could identify that, you could start to seek it out more, you could take it in more, and not just here. It's not a useless thing, but take it into here, we could find more that it could be more enriching. And the more that's here, the more that you can share. So it's important in this process to identify the quality of that, to not overly personalize it, and then take that in. Now, the idea of companionship on the journey comes up. Early on, in the very first days, the earliest days of the early Christians, there was this concept called the agapete, the sacred companion. Pretty much by Constantine's time and all that other wonderful masculine belief system stuff, and it gets wiped away. The church, as such, just couldn't handle it because it was in the non-sexual, equal participation on the journey. And even Saint Paul had one called Tekel. Look her up. Paul had a sacred person on the journey. For him to do the dishes. It was a support system. Yes.
Were they always male and female other than the Catholic?
That's an excellent question.
Repeat the question.
To the best of my understanding, yes.
Repeat the question.
Okay, the question was, were they always male and female? Okay. I'm going to say that not everybody took Jesus' lead. That's always a good What was a good, what would Jesus do? Jesus' lead was, who is his sacred, on three. I'm going to give a play. Who was Jesus' sacred companion? 1, 2, 3.
Mary Magdalene.
Right, Mary Magdalene. Right? So he set the archetype for all things, for all times, and that was from the beginning. And for 15 minutes anyway. And then it gets, he did send out people 2 by 2, men and women, but that was the outer journey. That was important to get the word out in that period of time. It made some sense because, as Rainbow said, if men are going to have issues with men, if men are going to deal with their issues, they're going to be most likely to understand them when a male speaks to them. He understood that in that time period. But that was not his sacred teaching. He taught these things. And there was briefly, the teaching of the masculine and the feminine was joined. And when Magdalene went to south of France, she went there briefly with a very special person, Joseph of Arimathea. And she required some assistance and some help. And then some stayed there and some went on with Joseph of Arimathea, but they had very strong connections. And this is conjecture. Someday we'll all get this one or not. But my understanding is in that cave of the resurrection, there were 5 beings in that cave. It was Joseph of Arimathea, or a reasonable facsimile thereof. There was Mary Magdalene. There were a couple of angels. And I invite you to be that 5th person. There's always the 5th person. And that 5th person really feels themselves up to the job, but is absolutely essential to being there. So that sacred companion really does get lost in time in the teachings that Jesus taught. He didn't just say, okay, guys, Peter, hang out for a while, I've got to go and talk to him. We have totally also, it was present in the teachings that came in Elijah, the School of the Prophets, certainly from Mount Carmel, the first Mount Carmel, that was taught and down, and Magdalene came from that, some of the studies, some of the Essenes came, the Essenes was certainly had a representation of that, the Cathars. So periodically, it's not just a mystery to get into the mysteries, it's to that most sacred union, that most sacred space. But, we still go back to 1 + 1 = 2. It's pretty hard to go down the road. And they did it in the teachings in the cave. And I'm going to be mindful of time, so we have time for another opportunity to go into the cave. Now, teachings, why was they done in the cave? One of the reasons is it's safe. It's away from things. It's nurturing. A lot of good reasons that you can go into the cave. Jesus spoke about going into one's closet, but he taught people to do that. But John, his cousin, really was in a cave. Huh?
He was out in the wilderness.
Well, he was out in the wilderness, but he taught his students in a cave. Because like Elijah, whether he was or not, but like Elijah, Elijah had his cave, so did John, and he taught his very special students in that place. That I say with some degree of clarity. And he taught things there. And so the cave was always symbolic of it. It was always a symbol of that. The first cave that we go into, we go in it, and we go and that we come. Well, really, we come out of it. Is the female cave. The imagery of these 2 circles side by side. If you have the 2 interlocking circles side by side. You have a pen by any chance?
Just a regular pen. We don't have a marker.
All right. The first picture is two circles side by side with an intersection. Entering into that cave, and some of the pictures that we saw of the Cathars, some of those caves look that kind of that passageway is very much like that. It's the yoni, the female, is often genitalia, but it's obviously a lot more than that. I mean, he got a great sense. She's got a great sense of humor. So if you're going to teach, you're going to make it like to these very dull beings. To like, okay, this is the first cave that we go into, and first that we come out of, and so that's for the dumb guys. It's like they get that cave big time. They get focused on that cave big time, right? But they're not capable of having the consciousness to produce something and nurture it and have something come from that. I'm a guy, somewhat. And so, but look at those two circles side by side. Step back from from some of the more nitty gritty of it, and they're two absolutely equal circles, poorly drawn, that really do intersect, and from that something gets created. So that's ordinary life. That's the first level, the first cave that we all go into. Once we start to wake up, then we have that opportunity for circle number two. Circle number two is Jesus the Christ. It was a symbolism. It was not the cross in the early days of the church, but it was the circle. Two circles intersected. The vertical two on the vertical plane. And that, where they intersect, what they call it, what she said. And it really was that same as the other one, but now all of a sudden, it's the fish. And that was the symbol for the fish. And that is where the divine, the circle up on top, meets the human, the physical plane. You're never separated. I'm sorry for some of the things that the Cathars and Docetic people and Arianists and all these other different things that spoke about that. This isn't like symbolic. This isn't kind of a shadow kind of thing. No, it's 100% there. Jesus was a living being, human, but it was also divine. To me, that's my belief system. And that's the second one. Now, the third is where you get three circles combined. And that's, all this is, there's a delightful picture here somewhere. Outside about the chalice well and some things, maybe upstairs. I think it's upstairs in the upper room. They have a representation of that. And these symbologies is where you try to ultimately balance one and two and go to number three. That's where the chalice was. So that's what going to the cave is, we're going to have a choice of what kind of cave you want to go into. It doesn't mean that trying to go to cave number three makes you special. Always honor the cave that you want to go into. One of the things that I've undertaken in the last 6 months is to support people. To meditate. There's a divine support that supports us. And one of the things that has perhaps been given for me to do is to support people to go into that cave and hold the energy with them while they're in that cave. So I'm going to support you all of going into your cave and see what you're going to find there, okay?
Can you explain again what the third?
The third one. Okay.
The third one is?
So, this piece and this piece. Combine them, you have this. That's the cross. You got the that's the origin, really, of as above, so below, and that. But the third one, that's where it gets kind of interesting. And pardon my lack of skill. In that area. So there are three.
It's starting to fall.
So when you have that interlocking thing going on, you create that, there's a patterning, and you start to see, if one goes into the next, I won't do it now, but you could start to go on a kind of a mental journey. It starts to get the spiral consciousness. Somebody here is well versed in labyrinth making?
Yeah.
Who isn't versed in labyrinth making? Okay. See, I remember saying, yeah, so some of the labyrinthine things start from these Celtic knots. You see, what are those Irish, how much beer did they have? Kind of knots that they have. It's how these things really intersect. But that third aspect is the third aspect of the divine, the Holy Spirit. Very quickly, one place.
You got an extra 5 minutes.
I have an extra 5 minutes. Okay, great, thank you. So the where was it? Okay, there's no better piece of literature other than in here. This is the best place to understand this. Absolutely, not me, or certainly me, but anyone to understand this. But the best literature piece for me ever is Dante. Because here you are, you're a middle-aged guy, which in that period of time you're 35. You're kind of lost in your life. You're depressed. You know, there weren't carols and all the other brilliant, loving beings to support them. So you're really lost, and you feel lost. And it's Good Friday in the year 1300. Oh, crud, another century, and here I am, and I'm just, halfway through my life. And so what Dante does, in so many ways he's my teacher, is what he does was he takes that and creates this divine comedy. And creates this amazing, called divine comedy. It was originally called comedy, and then Boccaccio said divine comedy. You can call it the comedy. I'll stick with Dante. But he creates a roadmap for understanding. He weaves in everything that Aquinas and others have come together mentally, and then he achieves it in the heart, and then he then goes on the experience of himself and shows how to do that. He actually went through this experience himself. So it's like, wow. I mean, if it gets better than that, it'd be one of the many things I'm not aware of. But what he does was on the first portion of the journey, where does he start out? He starts in hell. He was in hell. It's like there's the she-wolf and the leopard, and the she-wolf, the leopard, and the lion were there. He was all representation of his fears and doubts and pride, etc. And he's in the woods, but he gets a guide, and the guide that he gets is Virgil. So it is a more mental aspect of it. It's spiritually mental and poetical. I think Virgil was a poet. So Virgil guides him through the hell that, no big surprise, that Dante was already in. And he gave him the guidance to all the sins and very Catholic church stuff, but about what the sins were and based upon the actions that you took. So in my understanding of it, he was like, to me, Dante's the first psychologist, absolutely, in my mind. He led people through that experience in such a way that Virgil did for him, that show, okay, not the error of your ways, but this is what's going on when you act that way, symbolically. Right, so Virgil helps take him through that, and where does he go to next? He goes to purgatory. Growing up Catholic? Yes, I should have a bumper sticker, growing up Catholic, and people, But the idea was that purgatory was always a bad place. I didn't want to go to purgatory because, not so good. Purgatory was all about purging, cathar, same words, virtually. So he takes us on that journey. Virgil takes us on that journey. He's a companion. Do not do this at home and without having a sacred companion. So Virgil was his. I'm going to invite that companion in just a few moments, just for yourself, because your consciousness knows ultimately all things. So I can't provide anything. I could provide maybe a roadmap, but when Virgil takes you through, what does he come upon? To this big mountain. And I know this is going to be a shock. It's a 7-story mountain. Dante did the first 7 terrace meditation. And at the top of it is Eden. At the top of it is returning back to that garden. After this meditation, then you can go take a bite of the apple for those that want to. But you were able to. He led up through all the different things in a very structured way. But then he gets at the top, and then finally, Virgil leaves the scene. There's nothing more that Virgil can do. And finally, the reason that he went into this thing in the beginning, one of his things was he had this wonderful Florentine courtly love for Beatrice. That was his sacred companion. That was his agapete. And so he brought, he was waiting for that moment, but he couldn't meet that. He wasn't prepared for Beatrice because he hadn't done his cleansing. I'm telling you, everybody here's worked really hard. You don't have to wait as long as he did. You're not newcomers here. Anybody a newcomer here? It's always a wise person. Sometimes they know the most. So the newcomer, and to everyone else, and so we really do have to understand. But Beatrice comes along and finally takes him to heaven, to the 9 levels of heaven, etc. And so finally they both end up into this ineffable state of union with the divine. Very yogic, in union with the divine. Dante didn't have real words. He just said, this is ineffable. But they did it together. It wasn't like, okay, Virgil did his thing, the chicks did her thing, and now finally I could just really be me and God one-on-one. It was never meant to be that way. Genesis 1 had 2 beings created in the image and likeness of God, not one. We do need to find the strength and the power of the divine feminine on that journey, because that's the second Genesis is all about consciousness. It's about the exploration of consciousness. If the feminine hadn't had the courage, curiosity to do that, we have to draw upon it and not shame it. We have to embrace it. It will give us experiences, some good, some bad. That is the nature of such things. But we don't have to make it bad, because God created it. He didn't create the pain exactly, but He created a space of love so big to intend that there is no experience that can't come back to wholeness. No person, no thing, no place. So, for ourselves, let's get ready into the cave. Now, there are going to be 3 kinds of caves that we can go into. I'm not going to overly suggest which cave to go into. Rather, I'll let your own meditational spirit guide you into going into that cave. Now this one, I'm going to suggest a little bit more structured breathing than the first one. A journey like this requires a little bit more oxygen and light. So, borrowing from the Hindu brothers and sisters and teachings, let's start just 3 short breaths. 3 short breaths through the left nostril and releasing, 3 short breaths, or relatively short breaths, through the right nostril, and I'll guide you through it, and then 3 breaths with both nostrils. So, put your right thumb over your right nostril, and the intention, always hold an intention just before you start to breathe. It's always good in a meditation to see what are you trying to clear. So here, the goal is to clear your consciousness, both the conscious side and the unconscious side, that block you from entering into your deeper spiritual cave and unity with God. That's the thought to hold. And that whatever is blocking it will be released. So that's always good to have a focus of the meditation. So breathe in through that right finger, right nostril. Breathe in through the left nostril. Feel the light, the divine loving light that's coming into your bodies, into your system. And let it go in through the nostril, into the cavity, and feel it filter into the brain, deep into the center of the brain. And then when you breathe out, without even thinking, some of the grit that's in consciousness will begin to just let go. All those conscious thoughts, beliefs, judgments, like somebody said earlier, they'll all be released. And just do 3. We have the time constraint here, but do it longer. Generally, I recommend you do it as long as it takes until you feel kind of a pressure on the top and the back of the head. Feel the light in the back of the head. And then you go, aha. And there'll be almost a smile. Okay, I'm ready for the other one. But now we're going to put our left thumb on the left nostril, and we're going to breathe in that same light. It might be a little different color and energy, but this will release any unconscious feelings, thoughts, beliefs, judgments that block us to find our true cave of our hearts. And breathe that out. And feel the light go in even deeper to the center of the brain. And hopefully by now, you start to feel a little bit of something in the top and the back of the head. And now the balance breath. I think this may be the most important of all. It's equally important for sure. Is, just hold your hands, the thumb and the index finger in a circle, palms up, and just be ready to receive, feel the balance. Take 3 balanced breaths. Balance is all. It's just balance. And breathe in, hold it in the head, the light, and then just breathe out. Now imagine that you're finding yourself in that woods of Dante, your own woods. In front of you, you can actually feel and see the light that is beckoning through the forest, a little different than some of the others. And you can close your eyes and feel that same light in your own heart, and feel yourself going down that one path. And all the possible paths you can take. There's one that says, okay, this is the way out of the forest. And when you come to the edge of that forest, you will be greeted by a companion, an angel, a dog. Someone you know, someone you'd like to know. But there'll be something, someone, some quality there. It could be a quality. It could be just divine love, ready to lead you. And in front of you, there is a mountain. Now you've all, I believe, been to this mountain before. That light and this guide will take you up to that place. Most often it's at the green level, but go to where you're led to go. I will suggest the green level, the heart level, but see where you are led to go. And when you get to that cave, you'll probably notice that there are 2 guardians on either side of that cave. And inside, know that everything that happens in that cave is safe. That is absolutely essential that you know, without a doubt, that the cave is absolutely safe. It's also sacred. It's Mount Montsegur. It is the safe space. And go inside that place. And the first thing, please take your shoes or sandals off. Leave your cell phone. Check at the door on airplane mode. And go inside to that sacred, this is your sacred space. And you'll feel that that light that was drawing you is radiating everywhere inside of that room. What I often do, and I'm going to suggest, is there is a pool, a golden pool, a cleansing pool to the side. Sometimes coming from the outside world, it's a good thing to just take a quick dip in there and leave all the clothes that you have behind and accept this companion's help in giving you a robe appropriate to the sacredness of this space. And inside this sacred space is going to be a white table, or a lesson flat table. And be drawn over to that place. And in that place, that you'll you'll find the book of life, the book of Janelle, Analia, Elizabeth, whatever your name may be, it's the book, your book of life. You see what color it is, what shape it is. This is where all things are registered from the beginning. No one can give it to you, no one can take it away. And finally, before you get to the book, imagine that Jesus and Magdalene are there with you. And either Jesus or Magdalene will lead you up to a particular passage in that book that's important to you to take with you in the outer world today. And they both do it. Or invite you to do it by yourself. But feel the presence of the divine companion, the divine other, and feel the presence of the divine teacher. And go over to that book and open it up and see what you find. And just take a minute, because this is a place that you can return, because it is your place. In the interest of time and knowing we have only a little bit of time here today, you can come back to this book at any time. There's the 7 Terrace Meditations, and go into that center place or wherever you find yourself and find that book. Invite it, and see the angels, inviting the companion that takes you there. Remember the equal presence of Jesus and Magdalene in that support. Close the book. Give thanks. Come back out. And then slowly come back into your bodies. And feel the light just for a second before you open it. Just feel that extra light that's in your heart and your mind. This is the light of divine, loving companionship. Thank you. We, I believe, are out of time.